let's talk about what's going on in the White House, because Mike Pence was awful quiet during that meeting. This guy doesn't want to stick out or, remind people that he's there, but he wants the president to feel like he's in his corner. But that, according to what you've written, it doesn't look like that's working.
Well, it doesn't. It's interesting. I mean, everybody was making fun of Pence. We've never seen him be quite as much of a sort of a frozen wax figure from Madame Tussauds as he was during that meeting. He sat there next to the president, literally didn't move a muscle, barely sort of moving his eyes back and forth at most, never changed expression. It really was as if he was paralyzed or off in some other place. And I thought that was particularly interesting because I had read this little piece maybe a week or so ago from Gabriel Sherman in Vanity Fair, who had said that recently Trump had a meeting with his various political advisors from the party, around the Hill, and in the White House, who came in and offered up all the polling and everything that showed getting ready for 2020. And one of the things that the polling showed was that Mike Pence brings nothing to the ticket. And the reason for that is because it's turned out that at the time Pence was chosen, it was assumed that Trump needed shoring up with the evangelicals because of his libertine ways, right? That they were not going to reject somebody and somebody with his past and all the womanizing and the various, rather non-religious behaviors over the years, and so Pence was brought on to shore up that side of the party. As it turned out, though, that is Trump's base, is the evangelicals, and this was borne out by a recent poll that was done. Well, actually, what it was some unreleased data from the exit polls in the 2018 midterms, and the fact is that Trump has lost vast numbers of white working-class non-evangelical women and quite a few white working-class non-evangelical men. What that translates to is that his base isn't white working-class. It is white working-class evangelicals, period. And, by the way, a number of white college-educated evangelicals. That's Trump's cult, is that group of people, this faith-based group that apparently just loves him no matter what. Whereas others within this group that I think everyone assumed was sort of Trump's base, the white working class, particularly women who get ignored in that white working class formulation. I mean, they work in, they're waitresses, they work in factories, but they also work in retail space, right? I mean, they work at the mall. They've got all those kind of jobs, and they're under tremendous stress, in this allegedly great economy. So, without the evangelical overlay, apparently people, they're being told that Donald Trump is their savior. Those people are falling away from him. So that was very interesting, and that tracks with this report that Gabriel Sherman had, that they looked at these numbers and saw that basically that the evangelical base is there for Trump. They love him. It doesn't matter what he does or says, they're with him. But they have this problem with women extends beyond this suburban Republican, problem that they had in the last election, and which appears to be something, a very serious problem for Republicans in general. And so the talk is that they're going to replace Pence on the ticket with Nikki Haley. Now, to me, that makes perfect sense. A smart, they would think of doing that. Who wouldn't, right? And under those circumstances, you look at those numbers. Well, you have to assume that Pence heard this, that White House leaks to the press. Certainly the gossip gets around. So it made me wonder if maybe this issue where, Trump thought that he had Nick Ayers in the bag, Pence's chief of staff, and fair-haired boy, and, Ayers was Pence's guy, right? Right. That he was going to become Trump's chief of staff, and Trump, trying to distract from all the bad news that he had last week, just sort of abruptly announced Kelly's departure prematurely. They hadn't actually, had the whole thing, and that maybe Ayers' reluctance to take that job has something to do with all this stuff that's going on with Pence.
Interesting. That is fascinating. All right. Well, look, let's take a break. I want to talk a little bit more about that, and then we've got to start to turn our attention to what we've learned in the past week about Trump's criminality and and also the criminality of those around him and how many years in jail some of them are going to spend. I'm Sam Seder. This is Ring of Fire Radio. Be right back.